All right, folks, and I am getting indeed confirmation that our runner, TrjnRabbit, is ready to showcase off Trauma Center Under the Knife 2, so can we get some hype from the audience to introduce our runner? Good luck, Trojan.
All right, thank you, Muffin, ladies and gentlemen, CovertMuffin, what a guy. All right, I'm TrjnRabbit. I have flown a long way. I'm extraordinarily tired, sleep deprived, and exactly in the right mindset to do 2 hours of ridiculous anime surgery. Assisting me today, we have
Altabiscuit,
AceOfArrows,
Irisjoker.
And with that, let's just get right into this thing. If I can remember how to start the game. All right, time's going to be when I hit yes in 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah. All right, most important trick of the run just there. I hit the select button, makes text go fast. Saves us God knows how many hours. This game has too many cutscenes, but which is a good thing right now because I don't know if I could handle pure 2 hours of surgery. Doesn't matter. Anyhow, welcome to Anime Malpractice Simulator, Atlas's attempt at mimicking surgery, except, I don't know, doesn't really seem like real surgery. We're going to start with a poacher who's had his leg bit by a crocodile. We're just going to reconstruct his bones, fuse it together with magic gel, and by the end of the day, we're going to save the world by removing an eye from the inside of a woman's heart. It's no biggie, standard everyday surgery. Now, you'll probably notice the entirety of the game is going to be played by the touchscreen. The only buttons I'm using are Start, Select, and the 2 styluses which I've got in my hand. That's going to be playing into just the general gimmick of the run, where we're using the touchscreen and exploiting the fact that the DS touchscreen doesn't know what to do with multiple inputs. It means we can teleport objects to pretty much anywhere we please. We can also do some fun little fancy tricks, but mostly it just means I can be the world's laziest doctor, and I don't have to worry about moving my right hand to the left side of the screen, even though that's only the size of a post-it note. Also, that lovely lady who's giving us a whole bunch of little prompts of what to do in Japanese, that is Nurse Angie. She is incredibly helpful, not annoying whatsoever. She does like to say sensei. She does like to chide us. We're just going to deal with it. Now, as you can see here, I'm using the 2 styluses, and that's actually letting me teleport these objects from one side of the screen to the other. That's not an intended behavior, but it doesn't matter because it makes the game faster. That's what we like to do. It also means that when we're doing little puzzles like this to reconstruct bones, it does not take very much time at all. Then we have this magic antibiotic gel. We're going to use it for everything from fusing bones together, healing small wounds, disinfecting wounds before cutting into them. We're not going to disinfect before slapping a bandage on because that's slow. And also lubricating doors.
Top-notch doctoring right there.
Yeah.
we don't have time for any of that disinfecting stuff.
Yeah. Cool, menuing's fun. All right, every single operation in the game is going to be preceded by a cutscene, but thankfully there are a couple of cutscenes we do get to skip completely, otherwise we would be here for a very long time. Don't want to do that. Just a little bit nervous there with the double press of the start button. Nobody noticed, right? That was snuck that one in. Okay, moving on to the second operation, just a nice simple thing, going to cure some cancer. Probably a little bit of explanation of the plot of the game is probably something relevant. We're currently playing as Dr. Derek Stiles. He is a world-famous surgeon who saved the world about 3 years ago from a disease called guilt, generated by some bioterrorists who are up to some dirty, nasty things. We don't really think too much about them. They don't make sense. They're anime villains. Run with it. But we're going to, after saving the world, we're doing some good. We're working in a refugee camp in Africa, just dealing with the local troubles, which happens to involve a man with cancer. That our rookie doctor friend, Dr. Adele Turba, he is the gentleman with the long hair on the top screen. He may have misdiagnosed, so bad Dr. Turba. But that's okay.
But that's why you're here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here to pick up the slack.
2 malpractices make a positive, right?
Yeah, but we're going to get to several thousand. I don't know wherever that balances out. Okay, next patient. We got a guy who's got some tumours inside his intestines. We're going to deal with tumours while we very carefully slice them open. Definitely don't get a miss there. All right. Fun little thing this game does, when it throws a tutorial at you, it tends to do it backwards. This is what happens after you clean up a tumor. There's all these miniature tumors that we need to zap with a medical laser, clean up with a bit of gel. But you're meant to first find them with the ultrasound, slice them with a scalpel, drain away a bit of this fluid stuff, poke a bit more with a scalpel, and then remove it. So the rest of them are going to be basically the reverse of what you just saw, starting with these three, which we're going to completely skip the ultrasound because that's slow. Don't worry about it. I'm also using 2 styluses here just to make the drain go a little bit faster. Turns out you can do a whole lot of things if you play with both hands.
And it's important to note for later that whenever there's a blood pool somewhere, you can't interact with anything that's under it until you drain the blood.
Yeah, they are massive jerks. Same thing goes for pus and inflammation. Just a real nasty thing. Don't want to deal with it. Pus is actually bad. There's one of the few medically accurate things to this game.
Yeah, it'll show up more often later in the run.
Yeah. Hope you guys are enjoying the top of my head. Yeah. All right. So we've dealt with cancer, we've dealt with crocodile bites. Let's go straight on to someone who's been blown apart by a landmine, got to have their ribcage reconstructed. Again, just normal, everyday things. There's actually a couple of fun little tricks we're doing with the styluses. You'll notice most of the time when I'm doing the sutures to stitch people back together, I'm doing just a very simple N or Z shape. We call them Kiwi sutures. Hello, New Zealanders. But there's also a trick that you may have noticed where it was just drawing a triangle shape. We call it delta sutures. It's done with the 2 styluses, and it's just another thing where we're exploiting the fact that the DS doesn't quite know what happens when you give 2 inputs, and it tries to snap between them. These are all kind of fun things, and it's the easiest trick in the world to learn. You can pick it up in maybe 5 minutes. The rest of the game might take a little longer.
Those are still just the best name for sutures.
Yeah. I hope you mean Kiwi sutures. Kiwi sutures, I'm quite proud of the name. All right, so just like the first patient, we're again reconstructing some bones, but first we've got to deal with this guy who's this woman who's flatlining. All we got to do is hit the green mark. Nice and easy. Later on in the run, we'll be using that to exploit the vital situation, because after you defibrillate, vitals are going to go up to nice, safe levels, which means we can be incredibly lazy and not worry about keeping the patient alive because the game does it for us.
So what Trojan did there, like, which just blew me away right now, he ignored that giant laceration in the spleen there. And when you ignore that, the vitals go down that much faster, unless, of course, you're fast enough to extract all the bones, suture the other lacerations, and use gel to treat them.
Exactly. So much of this game is just get good, go fast. It's a happy feeling.
And if any of these operations look familiar, well, it's because they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game borrows heavily from New Blood.
New Blood and Second Opinion. Some of the operations are also mixed up. Like, for example, the first operation that Trojan did earlier was from, I believe it was Second Opinion and Under the Knife 1.
Possibly. For those who don't know, Second Opinion and New Blood are the 2 games in this series that were on the Nintendo Wii, and then there was also Under the Knife, which was the original one on the DS. There's a bit of a split between them because one uses the Wiimote, one uses the touchscreen, to each their own.
Yeah.
I have a slight bias towards the touchscreen. Played a few hours on the games that do that. Yeah, you'll also notice that I finally got an S rank. We do not care about score or rank at all in these games because, well...
For this category.
Yes. Yes, there are actually categories that do care about rank. This is not that. Oh, also, we're about to remove a bullet from inside of a man's heart. Again, totally normal, everyday things, not the sort of thing that would definitely result in anyone's death.
Is that why Angie was freaking out?
You know, it could be why Angie was freaking out. I would not rule that out. Now, the fun thing about ranks, a lot of the rank, this game is a score-based game in a lot of ways. You can see in the top of the screen there is a score that's going to tick up as I do actions, which will be given as good, cool, or good. Good, cool, or bad, possibly. Both very hard.
Well, in your case, you rarely see that until you slap a bandage without disinfectant.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what's more fun? Hitting the patient with the bandage.
Oh yeah, you can totally kill a patient by missing with a bandage.
I'm pretty
I've done that.
I think we've all done that at some point.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a rite of passage, and basically you haven't played Trauma Center until you've killed patients in as many ways as you can. Again, it is Anime Malpractice Simulator. Heavy emphasis on all 3 words.
The medical board will be notified.
Yes. Anyway, back to the score thing. It gives you score. You can see just in this screen a little bit up the top, stage score, vital score, and time bonus. Faster you go, more points you get. More points you get, the closer you are to getting that S rank. Every once in a while, I am going to end up with some S ranks, but I don't really mind unless they happen to spell out a word on the screen. Hi, Reddit. All right. Next up, we're dealing with what's basically the boss fight of this level. We've got a cranky little kid who's was part of a guerrilla group that was invading the camp because there's a civil war going on in this country. You can see him in the top screen. He's a little bit cranky, and the way to stop his crankiness is to poke him repeatedly with a scalpel until he stops bleeding. It's medicine.
We don't know why it works that way either.
Makes perfect sense to them.
Yeah. The funny thing is that's like not even in the top 10 ridiculous things that we're going to see today. I love this game. All right, let's deal with our little cranky kid. All right. Fun little thing we're going to see during this operation is there's going to be a whole bunch of bleeding just underneath the surface of the organ. So to find it, we do have to find it, poke it with a scalpel to get him to stop bleeding. We're meant to use the ultrasound, much like tumors, to dig it out and find it. But because it's always in the same place, I'm just going to poke wildly, and things are going to work out pretty okay. Now I'm going to boost vitals up to about 50 because I just want to have as much of a buffer as I can to work with before we get to the final bit of this. And I also want to completely ignore the patient's well-being while we get to the final stage because it's slow.
And each of these internal hemorrhages are also like set in place, the number and the placements as well.
Exactly. Now we've got our first instance of the healing touch. This is a forced usage, so I can't really control and draw a butterfly for you fine folks. Instead, we're just going to have time magically slow down through Derek's own volition. I've got no control over it, but it's just to make sure that we can deal with all this nonsense going on. Now the nonsense dealt with, time's going to go back to normal, and we're going to finish up. And that's the first chapter of the game. There's 7 of those. That was the easy one.
And get used to him saying a lot of things that you should never hear your surgeon say.
Yes. There is a reason that I'm very emphatically not a doctor. Aside from being not qualified whatsoever, I would most definitely kill someone within seconds.
Despite being dressed like one.
Yes. Look, they sell these to anyone, honestly. Like, I just walked into the store and said, "Where are your scrubs?" They pointed me to the wall, picked up some scrubs. Here I am.
Did you know you could just buy lab coats?
Right? And people then trust you. Like, it is the weirdest thing. I've literally been in, like, the break room of a hospital for legitimate reasons, and they thought I was a doctor. I wasn't dressed as a doctor. I wasn't dressed like this. I was wearing just, like, a white T-shirt. And one of the nurses came up to me and started asking me about things happening on the next shift, which was very confusing for my wife, who was the actual doctor that I was hanging out with. All right, the plot's progressed a little bit. We're now going back to America to kind of deal with the nonsense that's going on in the world after the effects of the original game. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of patients who have post-guilt syndrome. But first we're going to be relearning how to do the healing touch, which was that magical star shape. Thing is, just like with 2 inputs, the DS can kind of get a bit confused if you throw things at it. so I don't have to draw a star. And that's why we've got the bid war for having people decide between the star, the butterfly, go butterfly, or the spiral. But there's a couple of other shapes that you get to do as well. I'm just going to show off what you can do here. This is just a nice little tutorial here to let you know how the healing touch works. And it just happens to be a canvas which we can fail to draw several shapes that will occasionally register as being a star.
Also, I believe Thurler was the one who found this trick out.
Thurler discovered the butterfly shape. Some of these other shapes were my own discovery. So that was the star. This is the butterfly. I promise I will try to make it look better than that. There's also this spiral shape, which is the least consistent one. You can see right there. You can also do things like draw an hourglass sometimes. Or maybe just a, that was meant to be a triangle with a circle. But the game thought it was a star, so we're good.
The DS games have the loosest detection as to what a star might be.
Yes.
In the Trauma Center Discord, we have a channel dedicated to very bad stars.
That the games actually took.
Yeah.
Also has that infamous like trapeze star still there.
Yeah, the infamous TP star.
It is amazing. Okay, and because I've now shown off what the bid war is, Muffin, where we're at.
All right, Trojan, you're going to be excited for this one because the healing touch shape that we're going to use is indeed the butterfly.
All right.
Yes. I'll be honest, I did not want to draw spirals. Like, that was a mistake throwing it up there, but it all worked out.
Can we get that changed? I want him to draw spirals.
Well, it's a bit late to snipe.
Careful, he might do surgery on you.
You do not want that. Okay, we're now dealing with the first post-guilt syndrome patient. Like I mentioned in the first game, at least I hope I mentioned, I've got no idea what I've said so far. Incredibly frazzled. Guilt was basically the bioengineered terrorist attacks that were the bosses of the game. And we're now dealing with the patients who were infected with guilt, and we're now dealing with the after effects where they have this disease that's turning their organs a dark color. And we remedy it by injecting this handy-dandy serum like so. Most of the time for these operations, it's going to be a tutorial, so we have to deal with it because the game won't let us progress. But because we are the world's laziest doctor, we are going to try and do our best to ignore that whenever possible because, you know, it's faster.
Usually you want to deal with it so that way, because when the post guilt syndrome is in effect, you won't be able to boost the vitals that much.
Exactly, and that's going to be a problem, particularly in this operation right at the start, right in the final phase here, because these tumors, they cause a lot of vitals to go down. So we're going to have our first butterfly, which, sorry, I will draw a beautiful butterfly for you people very soon, I promise. Anyhow, I need to remove all 4 of these tumors at the same time. If I don't, they're going to respawn. I'm going to have to do this again, and vitals are going to tick down very close to 0, or possibly less and kill the patient, but that's just a thing we're going to have to deal with if it happens. Oh, let's use the correct tool.
I was about to say, I saw the scalpel there.
Let's just clean everything up. The day is saved. They are not dead. We have prevented our first major mistake.
Very nice.
Hey. Also, get used to that little vital klaxon because there's going to be a lot of operations where I am going to keep the vitals nice and low. You can actually have vitals sit on 0 for pretty much indefinitely.
Yeah, the game actually has a hidden decimal value. So you can sit between 0 and 1.
Yeah.
We've all had those panic scenarios too, wondering how we survived it.
Yeah. Don't question it. If the game gives it to you, the game gives it to you, and you get to move on to the next operation.
Mm-hmm.
There is a plot going on this game. I've explained as much as I understand, but you've probably noticed I'm playing in Japanese, and the extent of my Japanese is really the medical words that they throw in when they're telling you what tool to use, which is not useful in any situation. But if you want to run down the streets of Japan and yell pogo, which means suture or stitching, feel free. All right, we're about to hit our next post-guilt patient. This is Linda Reed, named after Sarah Reed, Sarah Chalk, Nurse Elliot Reed, there we go, from Scrubs. Got there in the end. A lot of the characters in these games are actually named after like Scrubs, Grey's Anatomy, House characters, because they did come out in the mid-2000s when all those shows were relevant. Although Scrubs is still incredibly relevant.
Linda Reed is also notable for being the first guilt patient in the first game.
Yes. All right. Linda herself, she's just dealing with a whole bunch of tumors with pus here. We really want to make sure that this pus isn't going to sit around for too long because it's going to have inflammation, like so. Inflammation is a real pain in the butt to clean up, so we're just going to make sure that with Healing Touch active, the pus doesn't have enough time to cause problems. So much of this game is just trying to get ahead of the problems that it's trying to cause for you, which means you just need to act faster than the game can give you problems. Now we finally get to meet the last tool in our little repertoire, which is... Oh, took a little while to find that guy. Which is the camera tool that lets us move the screen around, and it is a pain in the butt.
And it becomes much more important towards the latter half of the run because obviously the camera affects how much you see, and the more you can see, the more you can operate on.
Exactly. There'll be an operation towards the end of the run where the camera position is going to be a huge deal. Just going to make a big difference between whether I'm going to be able to save the patient at all and if I'm going to let the brain aneurysms burst or not. And often I'm going to let them burst anyway because, again, I am an incredibly lazy man.
Things you want to hear your surgeon say.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. I'm only letting the aneurysms burst so that I can deal with his tumors. It's prioritizing.
You sure you can't just pick Valerie for these aneurysms?
It's fine.
Not in this game.
Also, again, shout-outs to New Zealand. You know what? I'm just going to let that one die. All right. I honestly can't remember what this patient is.
Neither can I.
I don't recall either.
No.
The funny thing about this game and why it can be difficult for us to remember some of the ops sometimes is that as you can see with the story, a lot of the same characters in the backgrounds get used over and over again. And also, Under the Knife 2 has more operations that are just, in general, fairly tame and normal compared to New Blood and Second Opinion, which are on the Wii, with have Stigma and Guilt, respectively.
Oh, this is actually my favorite patient. This is the first Burns patient, and it's,
Oh,
yeah.
Burns.
Yeah. Burns are not well loved in the trauma center community, but as I am a strange man, I actually love this operation just because there's a very satisfying bit of sequencing where I'm going to use each tool only once during the second half of the operation, and there is a funny little sense of satisfaction you get from getting that going right. Of course, now that I've said that it's satisfying, I'm going to screw it up in some way, and you're all going to laugh at me. But that's fine, because if you laugh, you have to donate $10.
Well, that's 10. And that's 20.
Just doing my bit for charity. The hitboxes on these skin grafts here are really particular, which is why I'm not using the trick to instantly teleport the skin grafts over. So as you can see, I just use the ultrasound to both scroll the camera and find this little pill capsule that if I had left alone would have created more burns. Then we cut everything out, drain all the excess stuff, use the forceps or pincers if you're playing in Japanese, use the magic antibiotic gel, and the patient's done. I don't know why that feels so good, but it does. You can also draw stars to close patients.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
What was really nice about that operation was how efficient you used each of the tool switching. Like you used each of the forceps one at a time, and then the scalpel and so on.
Exactly. So much of the optimization of this run actually comes from doing that as well. Towards the end of the run, trying to do as much as you can with one tool before moving on to the next. It saves seconds, and those seconds save a lot of vitals, which in turn save more seconds, and it just adds up to... It adds up to an unfathomable amount of time.
Yeah.
It is truly bizarre, the things that save time in this run, because it's not your normal speed game. You're not running left to right. You're not collecting things, doing like that. You're playing on a touch screen. You're doing surgery. Also, we're meeting Emilio, and Emilio is everyone's favorite character because he says medico. Emilio is another of the post-guilt syndrome patients. He had Pempty, which was not a fun thing to deal with casually, but it's not too bad when we come up to it later. And now we're dealing with the after effects where he's got extreme hepatitis to the liver, which we're going to try and solve by poking him until he stops bleeding. It's a tried and true method. Worked on the cranky kid, should work on Emilio. And funnily enough, when we first started routing this game, we used the healing touch to try and get through this operation, but it turns out that's really, really slow because it causes lag between the screen transitions, and that costs you maybe 20 seconds. Not the sort of time loss you want to have when this operation is itself so short. So we're just going to patch up his hepatitis or whatever's going on there. Things are going to go wrong because it's trauma center and things aren't allowed to go right. Clean up some more bleeding. I might kill Emilio here.
Let's say you're a madman. You exposed all of those internal hemorrhages at once instead of doing like half of them at a time.
You're not meant to do them all at once?
I mean, I don't do it, but then again, that's why you're the one doing the run.
Neither do I. They bleed out again so fast.
Yeah, the vitals dropped to 2 right there.
It's fine. 2 is not below 0.
Exactly.
I am pretty sure. Go maths. Apparently that was only worthy of a B rank. Apparently cutting blindly into someone is not the thing that you should be doing during a surgery.
Or, you know, dropping their vitals to 2.
He lived!
He did.
Like, that he's going to die later, spoilers, is of no consequence. He lived, and honestly, if I killed him there, then we should skip 1.5 chapters.
Things you don't want to hear your surgeon say.
I'll take that for 500, please.
All right. We're on to the first neo-guilt of the game, and these are going to be the boss fights that we're dealing with for the rest of the run, basically. Well, not the rest of the run, at the end of each chapter of the run. And then the final chapter is just going to be all neo-guilt and nonsense, because Atlas loves nonsense in the best possible way. Anyhow, this one's called Nous, and what we're meant to do is, after we do an organ transplant, because Emilio's liver did not survive my operation there, and we're giving him a new one, but it's infected with Nous. And Nous is a type of star-shaped tumor that's going to spawn inside of the liver and is going to come along with a couple of other tumors. And we are meant to remove those tumors in the order that they spawn. That's slow, so we're instead just going to boost his vitals like crazy, deal with one tumor, and then deal with the Nous. And we're going to get yelled at a lot by the game for doing this, and I don't particularly mind.
And she yells at you for everything anyway.
Exactly. Right. This transplant section is the only one in the run where you do it, and it's another one where you can practice your two-hand stuff, which is a very easy trick to learn. All I'm doing is alternating my actions between hands. Very simple thing. It helps that the tools are basically divided on the left and right sides, which makes it a bit easier to switch back and forth. And now we're going to initiate hose strats, where we have this hose of the stabilizing fluid that we're just going to plug into them, and that's what's going to get us through. The annoying thing with this game, though, is all the tools have limited use. So as I use the stabilizer, you'll notice in the bottom right of the screen that tool is going to change color. If that goes black with a little X over it, I'm not going to be able to use the syringe at all. And that's not a thing we want to have happen. So I'm actually doing very specific amounts of injections to make sure that it runs out when I want it to. We're also going to let a lot of tumors burst because it's the way I play the game. Emilio is going to survive. It's fine.
Yeah. It's also faster to do it that way, despite, you know, boosting the patient's vitals to like 60 and then dropping them to 20.
You're sure he's going to survive again?
He's fine. I have confidence in my ability. I shouldn't, but I do. All right, so you saw that the vitals ran out, but I had 70... Sorry, you saw that the syringe ran out, but I had 72 vitals, so that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It means I'm a bit low coming into this final phase of the operation. Otherwise, I could have done a trick that put the vitals down to 0 where we had the screen transition, but I don't necessarily want to do that because often it goes below 0, and that's not necessarily the best thing in the world. 3 vitals is a lot. More than enough.
And I forgot how cool the music is for Neo Guild.
Oh, yeah. The music in this game is particularly good. I'm just going to boost vitals so I don't accidentally kill him with a bandage. Just my one bit of caution. Was the composer the same one as the Persona games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shoji Meguro.
That's my boy. Yeah, so there's a number of Neo Guild operations that have some ridiculously good boss themes, and then there's the final boss fight itself, which is just insane, both as a run and as a soundtrack.
The thing looks menacing, too.
Yeah. All right, Muffin, if you've got anything for us?
Oh, yes, we do have plenty of donations. We can start off with a $100 anonymous donation that says, this donation goes out to anyone who wears full scrubs to a run to keep the frames sanitary. We also have $10 from Saga231 that says, Trauma Center was a massive part of my teenage years and actually subtly motivated me to go into medicine as my career choice. Love that it's being run this year. And here's hoping Atlas hears our pleas for another game. Think we can guilt trip them?
You know what, sorry I didn't catch your name, but I love you.
I don't know, man. I've got a bit of a stigma about that.
Sure. All right. There's always a puzzle operation in these games. It's unavoidable. This is the puzzle operation of this game. We've got some spinning discs. It's meant to be amino acid chains or something like that. I really don't know. All I know is that you connect the blue dots, then the red dots, then the green dots, and then everything works out. I hope.
It's just connect the dots.
Hey, I gotta run.
All right, then we get to do it again. That's not right.
The middle.
Yep. No, that was meant to be blue, wasn't it?
Yes, yellow, blue, green.
Game is hard, okay? I can save the world from ridiculous anime viruses, but I can't connect the dots.
Thanks, Nurse Iris.
You joke, but this is a genuine thing that we struggle with in runs, where we forget the order of
Yes,
things.
I can second it. I still have notes for this puzzle op every time I do it.
I only stopped using a cheat sheet for that about 2 weeks ago. I've been running this game for over 2 years.
I still use the cheat sheet for the puzzles in Second Opinion.
Same.
I never remember those.
Yeah, all right. So we were actually just introduced to one of the major characters of this game, Reina Miyazumi. She was the, let's say, buxom lass that appeared on screen with the multiple panels showing off her figure. She's a bad guy, because everyone who shows up trying to help in this game is a bad guy.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Anyhow, she's doing a whole series of tests on Derek here to get to the bottom of his magical super medicine powers so that she can steal them for later. And now she's trying to egg up his ego a little bit by getting him to appear on live television and do some surgery, as you do. And they've thrown in a little complication in this operation where there's someone taking pictures of you as you're doing surgery. And they're doing it with a camera flash, which annoys the hell out of me because we're performing surgery in a surgical theater that's being used as a TV studio. I don't know if you've ever been in either of those environments, but they are incredibly well lit because they have to be. So if you're using a camera, you don't need to use the flash unless you are a massive jerk. This guy is a massive jerk.
Well, arguably, the guy who hosts for Miracle Surgery in New Blood is a more massive jerk.
Game, if you'd just like to register that I'm doing the thing. Thank you.
So yeah, as you can see with the camera placement, if it's too low, you won't be able to treat the inflammations up the top, and if it's too high, then you won't be able to extract the tumors that are showing up on screen right now.
Exactly. I might just boost vitals. That's the thing that you can do in this game to make sure the patients don't die.
Right.
Don't often do it, but, you know, sometimes it comes in handy.
I did a little math there. You would have had one left if you didn't do it.
I believe you.
Speaking of math, do you have time for a quick donation?
We do.
All right, well, we have a $35 donation from Eurocha that says, as someone with a Bachelor of Science in Math, I can confirm the runner's theory that 2 is not below 0.
Thank you for the validation. And also the donation. That's probably a good thing as well. All right, so the tests are going to continue, and we're going to deal with something. I'm sure I could accurately describe the upcoming operation, but I'm not quite sure how much sleep I've had. It's not much.
Is this 3.5?
This is 3-4.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 3.6.
For those playing at home, we often refer to things by their chapter number and then the operation. So on the screen on the left, when we're in the menu select bit, you'll see that it's like 3-4, 3-5, 3-6. Or is 3-4 one that we're meant to skip and we're wasting 2 minutes of time by going through this cutscene?
I'm honestly not sure.
No, it's not. Good.
Okay.
And that happens more often than it should. I hate to admit.
It's fine. We're professionals. Sometimes.
Ish.
Not professionals at this, but that's a different matter. It's okay. We're actually dealing with aneurysms. There's only 2 aneurysm operations in this game, and aneurysms are traditionally annoying as hell. What's going to happen is there's going to be these happy little bulges we're going to have to poke with a sedative, like so. If they get too big, they're going to burst and cause massive vital damage, which is not a thing that we particularly want to have happen, except for the times that we do want to have it happen. There's also these larger aneurysms here that take a lot of sedative to deal with. So we're going to have to prioritize those quite a lot because they don't burst, and that's just annoyingly slow. This is another one where camera position matters quite a lot. So you'll see me moving the camera around just to get through everything. There's also going to be a burst aneurysm on the left side of the screen any moment now. Any moment now, game. Come on, I gave you your cue. There it is. But we wanted that to happen because dealing with it normally is just too slow. Then we move on to the second wave where the same thing happens, and we're just going to try and deal with everything on the screen at once. But we'll deal with that top one in just a moment. Fun little fact about this game is you can finish dealing the thing that you're working on before moving on to the next thing, is you can deal with anything behind the UI if you just start the action in front of the UI. So, like, if you can see just down below the bottom there, there's a aneurysm hiding out below my syringe vials. I'm going to probably let that burst. I don't normally do it, but I'm playing a little bit slower than normal. And that's totally fine. I can deal with it. Because even if the UI obstructs it, if you start the action in front, you're fine. Then we've got another forced use of the healing touch here. Observant viewers may have noticed that there was a star missing from the bottom left of screen. Because this is a forced use so that our friend Reina Mayazumi can steal our superpowers later, or copy them. Also, that was maybe not the correct tool to use. And then I need to remove these left to right and then place them right to left because this tray that has these artificial veins that I'm placing, that obstructs the screen and it's a really annoying thing to have to deal with. But we dealt with it. Also, I absolutely love this song.
Well, we'll be hearing it a lot throughout the run.
Oh yeah. Okay, so if that was 3-4, then we've probably got 3-5 coming up. That was 3-3. So I don't understand how numbers work. Okay, good. Good. This is the guy you want performing surgery at 2 a.m. after no sleep and a 26.5-hour travel. Yeah.
You're skipping 3, 4 anyway, so 5 comes after 3.
Yeah.
In this case.
I've got no complaints. Yeah, that was one of the ones that you skip because it's just a cutscene. This one, it's just a happy little car crash victim. We're going to use the healing touch, clean up some glass, drain all some blood. Too easy. So, Muffin?
All right. Well, speaking of qualified surgeons, we have $10 from Sailor Eli that says, as Buzz Lightyear once said, I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
I have not.
All right. We also have $5 from Chow NV that says, I decided to wake up at 5 a.m. only to watch a Trauma Center speedrun. Without even knowing there's an active speedrun community for this game series. In less than 5 minutes of watching, this awesome runner and his couch already made it worth it to wake up. You guys are excellent. This money can go to Runner's Choice.
Thank you very much. Runner's Choice is going to be having a hand cam for Half Coordinated's run because Half Coordinators is an awesome dude. And also, good morning. Or for the Australians, good evening. And for everyone else in the world, sorry, I have no idea what time it is. Okay, this is another operation where we care a little bit about optimizing which tools we're using. So to make our life easier, I'm going to draw a pretty little butterfly, use the wrong tool because I have just completely frazzled myself, and pretend like nothing happened. Then we're going to scroll the camera down and repeat the same mistakes. Trust me, this is totally fine. No one needs to worry. It all works out in the end. Scroll back up. Do it again. And Andy just said echo, which means use the ultrasound. But we're going to very deliberately scroll the camera in such a way that we don't see where these hemorrhages are, because that way she doesn't interrupt us while we're trying to focus. Because Angie does that a lot. Let's just draw a star. Let's just draw a star.
Even though I've ran these games myself, just still watching other people run it is just mesmerizing.
Yeah.
All right, so remember our little friend Emilio? He's the one who said Medico, and we loved him. We've got some bad news. We're coming up to the end of the chapter, which means we're coming up to a boss fight, and this is Neo Kyriaki. For those who have played Trauma Center before, Kyriaki is a jerk. Everything in this game is a jerk. They're little things that float around inside organs, just cutting them up. We're going to have 3 Kyriaki patients that are going to get increasingly difficult, and there's meant to be a 4th one, which is our friend Emilio. However, he self-triaged and said that, hey, I've dealt with guilt several times in the past, my body should be able to resist it. However, because patients shouldn't self-triage, and he's actually, post-operative after a liver transplant, and also maybe incredibly low vitals as the result of a negligent surgeon, he should have been the priority number 1. He wasn't, so he's just going to die. But that's okay. We're actually going to deal with one of the biggest glitches in the run. And this was found by a Japanese speedrunner called SCSK, who is a wizard. And hopefully hosting the Japanese restream. I actually didn't get confirmation on that beforehand. And what happens with Kyriaki is in the original games where it first showed up, there was just infant forms and a mature form that shows up after you defeat the infants. In this, after the first patient, the mature Kyriaki is going to be replaced with a queen Kyriaki that lays eggs every time you attack her. Specifically in the 3rd patient, because the 2nd one's a tutorial. We're going to use a glitch where instead of cleaning up all the wounds that are made by the Kyriaki, we're just going to leave them there. And that means that the eggs aren't going to spawn, and we don't have to deal with the eggs potentially hatching into infants and causing a lot of mess. The downside of that is that the vitals are going to get very low. So it's a very tough little race to get on top of things. This is one of the few times where I'm going to use the ultrasound intentionally as well, instead of just when I'm accidentally selecting the wrong tool, because you have to find the Kyriakis as they're dancing around inside the intestines here before you can cut them out. They move pretty erratically, and you just You just can't cut into the patient's organs too erratically. It's not allowed.
Also, with the ultrasound, you have to completely center the ultrasound on the Kyriaki shatter, or else we won't be able to cut it with the scalpel.
Yeah, it'll just disappear.
Yeah, the precision there is a lot more than you'd think, but I got pretty lucky on the Kyriaki spawns. It is random,
Yeah.
so I just spam the screen and hope, which is a pretty tried and true method. Works the world over. This second patient here is the introduction of the queen mechanic, where we're going to see a couple of eggs, but it's not how it's going to work for the rest of the run because, again, tutorials never work the same as the operation proper.
Ooh, nice ultrasound.
Yeah, that was about as lucky as you get.
Yeah, you exposed 2 at once.
All right, because this is the second patient in the tutorial, we're not going to use the glitch because it doesn't work. All right, instead here, we're going to find the queen, 2 infants, and an egg. Cut them all out at once because it's easier to deal with everything in one go. Slap a whole bunch of gel down so the patient doesn't die, because occasionally we care about patients not dying, mostly because we'd lose about 2 minutes.
The gel will also slow down the Kyriaki for those who might be struggling with this operation when they first try it.
It also slightly increases the vitals, so it's a good panic button sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, more importantly, it stops the vitals ticking down from all these open wounds. If you pay attention, you'll notice that the wounds are kind of puffy with a... there's a little puffy animation. Let's go with that. And that's going to stop for any wound that I gel over. Look at the luck. How is this happening now instead of in PB attempts, right?
Yeah, really. Like, I wish I could have your luck with the ultrasound.
All right, so now this is how the queen works normally. We've got the queen, we've got the infant, and somewhere over here is an egg. We cut them all out, remove the egg, slap a whole bunch of gel down, kill the infant, and now we start working on the queen. And I think I'm not allowed to say the phrase kill the queen if I want to be let back into the country on my return. But I accidentally did, and we're just going to have to deal with that thing. But old mate Lizzie is dead. Clean up all the wounds, and that's the first Kyriaki fight.
Yeah, it may not have seemed like it, but that's like one of the most difficult ops in the game, with how like low and quickly the vitals will fall.
Yeah. All right, so there were meant to be 4 patients, but Emilio didn't quite make it to the operating table, even though we had a whole 10 minutes to get to him. And there was still about 7 minutes on the clock there. I actually wasn't paying attention. But he's dead, and that means Eric's going to have a bit of a sulk, because he can't handle failure. It's this bizarre thing in these games. Anytime a patient dies, the game over screen is not the patient's death, it's the medical board being notified and Derek running away to have a sulk because he can't handle failure. And this chapter, chapter 4, that's the consequences of that failure. This is like the only time where you can fail operations and not run away. What's meant to be happening in this operation is our friend Dr. Adele Turba, who is in the first chapter. He's come down with a case of the cranky pants bleedy virus that the kid had, and we're meant to try and deal with him. And then things get out of control, and we're meant to activate the healing touch to get through it. I'm just going to get straight to the bit where I activate the healing touch. It's not going to work, and we're going to fail the operation. This is one of 2 intentional failures in the entire series. I'd love to do a fake out for it, but I couldn't think of a good one.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of an unwinnable boss in an RPG.
I think that counted as a better looking butterfly, that last one.
The board will be notified.
It even says on some of the more ridiculous operations, like when you're, say, trapped in the basement of a dungeon. Basement of a dungeon? That's a sentence. Trapped in the dungeon of the bad guy's lair and you're trying to escape. If you accidentally get stuck in there by not being good at games, the board will also be notified, which would have been really helpful because then they could have found you and saved you. Don't think too hard about it. This game makes a lot more sense if you play in a language you don't understand.
And much like the other games, Chapter 4 seems to be like the cooldown chapter after a tough Chapter 3.
Yeah, this is almost a breather, which I didn't know Atlas was capable of doing, but they do throw us a bone occasionally.
Yeah, but don't worry, they'll throw Chapter 6 and 7 at you pretty soon.
And we know how much we love those.
That just there was just Derek confirming that he really doesn't have the healing touch anymore.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. I was barely using it anyway.
Just a really bad case of the butterflies.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we can't slow down time to make surgery easier, we're going to go back to Hope Hospital, which was the scene of the first chapter of the first game where we learn how to be doctors. Probably a lesson that we should have taken more seriously. Also, the start button doesn't want to work, and that's not very good for skipping chapters. And now we're going to do a few more routine operations without the healing touch, just to kind of get back into the groove of being surgeons. You know, snap us out of the funk. And then it's going to get anime again, because it's still Trauma Center. Like the first patient we're going to deal with here, they've got some, what is it, just the gallbladder? They've got some gallstones just kind of coming out, causing problems. They're going to float down the bile duct, and if they get to the bottom of the screen, that's going to cause a lot of damage and, you know, possibly death. It happens. We can use the ultrasound to find the gallstones when they appear, zap them with a laser, get rid of them, or we can just remove the gallbladder and, like, cut to the chase. Because so much of this game comes down to just dealing with the thing before it gets out of hand. So if I get really lucky, we're going to skip a cycle where the gallstone appears down the bottom and, you know, kills the patient. And if we don't get lucky, I'm just going to panic. It's a good plan. Oh, and then we're dealing with an appendectomy because someone's got an infected appendix. Appendicitis, I guess? There's medical terms for these things.
You'll also note that the nurse is now Mary Fulton, who trained Derek at the very start of the first game. She's there kind of like as a therapy, I guess.
Yeah, she's coming out of retirement for this.
See, towards the bottom of the screen, there's another gallstone floating down, but Trojan's dealing with the gallbladder as quickly as possible so that way no more will spawn.
Yeah, if I didn't cause all that blood to happen by removing the blood to happen, wow. If I didn't cause all that blood to spawn in by cutting out the gallbladder in time, an additional gallstone would have happened and that would have killed the patient, but I would have had time to zap it with the laser, so they're probably okay. They survived, that's all that matters. Let the ward sort them out. Next up is our appendectomy. It's pretty much the same thing. We just jab this white fluid into the infected organ, cut it a bit, and get rid of it. That's how appendectomies work, isn't it?
I don't know. Is that how they work in real life?
Close enough.
Is it that easy?
I mean, the rest of the game has been entirely medically accurate as far as I'm aware.
Also, a quick note, this is also another operation where the pus can get in the way of using the that little Q tool used to snip the appendix.
Yeah, I think it's just a wire.
Yeah.
Like we're literally just wrapping a wire around it and giving it a tug.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a little boring. We're going to do some more exciting operations. We've got some car crash victims, or as I like to call this operation, pen pal and pals, because, well, you'll find out eventually. Look, we've got 3 car crash victims, and the problem with the first 2 patients is they're going to have reduced MAC vitals. Normally in this game, you have 99 vitals to work with, or, you know, more than 0, generally when I'm playing. These patients are going to have 40 or 50 max vitals, and everything I'm going to do is going to cause those vitals to drop. So I have to be very delicate about how I'm handling that, jab them with a syringe every once in a while to keep them happy, and it should work out all right. Or go horribly wrong. There's only really 2 options.
I guess you could say you've got 99 vitals, but a guilt ain't one.
No. Because like I said, I've got about 50.
I didn't know this was Pun Center.
right, this is much like the earlier operation with the person who went over a landmine. Just going to remove these, and I'm doing it in such a way that the blood pools aren't obscuring things too much, because it turns out too much blood is not good. And too few vitals, also not necessarily good. Let's get rid of all that blood. Patient doesn't need it. It's fine. They're not dead. That mist definitely didn't come close to killing them, and I normally don't boost vitals there at all.
I'm stitching part of the bone in them.
It's fine. They're not dead. Yet.
It just makes the organ stronger.
And you still got the bandage. Oh, okay, you're good.
They had 15 vitals. That was not going to be a bandage kill. Probably.
I was about to say.
All right.
So this second patient has a lot of internal hemorrhaging going on. This, along with the third patient, for me, like, or at least me personally, required a lot of practice finding out where all the hemorrhages are, and then moving the camera and having it positioned perfectly to show out where all the lacerations are and where to gel.
Or you can just cut blindly and hope it works.
Yeah, there's that too.
Not the recommended strat, but you can try it. And another patient not dead. Probably.
Still got the bandage.
Look, I slapped a bandage on him, it's now the ward's problem. All right.
He'll walk it off in the morning.
Exactly. This is our friend Pen Pal. We call him that because he's got a pen jabbed in his bicep. I thought that loading screen was going to take less time. Here's the pen.
Ugh.
And now it's gone.
Yeah.
All right, these sinews that I'm connecting here actually have really obnoxiously tiny hitboxes. So if you get a miss like that, all the ones that you don't suture together are going to snap back in place and you have to do it again. Just a happy reminder, the screen that I'm playing on is about the size of a Post-it note. So when I'm talking about small hitboxes, I am talking about physically tiny hitboxes that I'm hitting with these things.
Yeah, I'm partially jealous of how well you're able to do that.
Yeah, only one mistake is pretty serviceable. All right, so fun fact, we work for an organization, in the game, the characters work for an organization called Caduceus, who are the good guys, or, you know, the only group that hasn't so far revealed themselves to be bad guys. And because there hasn't been another Trauma Center game in about 10 years, they're probably going to remain good guys for now. The thing is, Caduceus doesn't really have a board of ethics. So our nurse Angie that's been helping us, her dad was the bad guy in the first game because nurses' dads are bad guys. It's just how it is. And we're now going to perform surgery on him because he has complications from being one of the bosses. Again, just how it is. The downside is we don't have healing touch, and this is a ridiculously precise operation. So I'm not quite sure how well I'm going to go here. This could be the first potential major hiccup of the run.
Yeah.
Because if I interact with any of these tumors when they're red, I'm going to kill my girlfriend's dad.
Yeah, the sequencing on this operation can change depending on how fast or how slow you go. So it's annoying to learn because as you get better, you have to approach it differently each time.
Exactly. And this is only the first part.
Yeah. So there's also PGS, the post-gout syndrome, settled in, which is reducing the patient's vitals quickly. But of course, Trojan did this so fast, can more or less ignore it.
Yeah. Just another case of getting ahead of the game causing problems. Then this rapidly blinking tumor appeared and we wussed out. But that's fine, because we're going to come back here in a moment and deal with him again, except this time he's going to have 6 tumors instead of 4, because why make anything easier, right? Unfortunately, the next operation with the 6 tumors is probably the one I've reset the most during PB attempts because, again, one mistake will kill the patient. And that's not really a thing we're looking to do. If it was faster to kill him, then let him bleed out, but that's not the case. Yeah, so this time I'm actually going to deal with them in pairs because it just so happens that the way everything lines up, you deal with them in pairs. I have no idea how I worked out how to do this. It just kind of lined up in such a way that you can. But I promise you, if you're doing this casually, it is a lot easier because you can just wait for the cycles. We don't have that benefit in speedruns. We've just got to go for it and try and get the tumors before they go red. And if they go red, he goes dead.
Yep. And we still don't have the healing touch, so we don't have an out with that.
All right, this time we are going to deal with the post-guilt syndrome because his vitals are going to get stupidly low.
That was really close.
Yep. Okay, so that patient only almost died about 6 times there.
Yes, he did. Anytime you try to extract the tumor or use the scalpel on the tumor when it's about to turn red, all of the other tumors that you've extracted will begin bleeding and make a lot of inflammations. It's just a huge time lost.
Yeah, it just makes a huge mess.
Yeah. And then when the blinking tumors appears, we finally get the healing touch back. Draw a happy little butterfly, which may have taken a few tries, maybe. Deal with the tumor, and we have finally saved Angie's dad. Professor Blackwell is saved.
Again.
Yeah.
That's like the 3rd time. Dude's got to stop getting sick.
Yep. For reference, he had Savato in Second Opinion and Under the Knife.
And Savato is a giant spider crawling around inside of a person's heart, causing a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah.
It served as the final boss.
Quite literally a spider. There's spider webs in your heart.
Yep. All right. Unfortunately, we're not past the worst part of the section. We're now dealing with the HOA, the Hands of Asclepius, or the Homos Association, depending on how much you This is an operation where we're dealing with someone who's got a whole bunch of stomach tumors and post-guilt syndrome, and they're going to flatline randomly. It is the worst operation in the game routing-wise, and we've done as much as we can to kind of exploit the things going on in our favor. It didn't quite work out that way, but we're running with it. There's just going to be a lot of things thrown at us, and we're going to do as much as we can to kind of get ahead of them. There's going to be a wave of tumors. We'll clean them up. There'll be a scripted flatline. We'll deal with it. We'll activate the healing touch to try and stop any more flatlines from happening, because when we get to a certain point, the drain, which we're using to clean up all the blood, all the tumors, all the nonsense, that's going to break. And then we're just going to have to kind of hang out and chill and wait for it to get back. And yeah, that's fun. This was a real pain in the butt to work out how to do it. And again, SCSK, the Japanese speedrunner, they came up with most of the routing for this operation, particularly the bit where we use the healing touch and getting the drain break trigger to go at the best time for things not to go too wrong. With that said, this patient may die. Hope they don't, but throwing it out there, there's a chance.
Yeah, Atlas loves to make tools break just to throw a wrench in the works sometimes. For example, in Trauma Team, what eventually happens is you actually drop your suture needle.
You'd think they'd have a backup, but nope. This is also a callback to everyone's favorite surgery in Trauma Center, New Blood, Miracle Surgery, where there's this TV announcer yelling at you as you perform surgery.
It's also just called Miracle Surgery twofold because you deal with like 12 tumors in this operation, along with excessive hemorrhaging, post-guilt syndrome, tools breaking, just everything that Atlas just throws at you that can go wrong, and you still somehow cure this patient through all of it.
Also, there's a lot of blood. Blood's bad. We don't want a lot of blood. We want them to stop bleeding, one way or the other.
Why don't you just stab him?
I'm getting to it. All right. I normally don't let this flatline happen, but I'm gonna roll with it because, well, we need the vitals, and the flatline's gonna boost the vitals back up to safe levels. If the game would like to flatline any minute now, thank you.
Let's see.
Because this is going to boost the vitals back up to about not zero.
Yeah.
Not zero. That's a good number.
Yeah, as Trojan just said, sometimes flatlines work to our advantage when we're below 10 because it will more or less freeze the vitals in place, and then after he finishes the defibrillator or heart massage, it'll boost the vitals back up.
Also, these tumors cause a lot of bleeding until you get rid of them, which is useful because it tells us where they are, but it's also annoying as hell because it makes it hard to do anything.
Right. Although, ironically, for XS runs or ranked runs where you're trying to get better rank, that actually helps because treating blood pools increases your chain, which is showing up in the upper right-hand corner.
They lived. That was pleasant. Thank you.
Nice planted.
It counted.
Is the ward's going to be busy?
Not my problem.
Speaking of ranking, doesn't SCSK still have all the world records for the all XS runs?
Yes, because they're the only person crazy enough to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, and Thurlow, the Brazilian speedrunner who holds, is it Second Opinion and New Blood now?
He has the record for normal on Second Opinion and New Blood.
Yeah. And he's also hosting the Brazilian restream. Hey, guys. It's basically dawn there, so if you're awake for this in Brazil, hats off to you. All right, I'm pretty sure this is the operation where we've got a guy who's been shot in the heart again, and they tried to make it more difficult by only giving us a minute to deal with it, but
Challenge accepted.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
We're going fast anyway.
At least I hope this is the person who's been shot. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing.
I think this is a different op.
Yeah, I think this is Tatati.
Oh.
I love how often we forget which operation we're on until we see the patient and we go, oh, it's this one.
To be fair, it's Tatardi, so...
Yeah. Tatati is another guilt, so another boss fight, and all we have to do here is match colors. There's going to be a bunch of things doing freestyle strokes just inside the patient's liver, or, yeah, let's say it's their liver. It might not be, but it doesn't matter. And they're going to be colored, purple, green, or yellow. So we're just going to inject purple, green, or yellow stuff into them, and that's going to make them go away. The game's going to try and make things more complicated by adding additional colors, but it isn't more complicated, it kind of is. So all I got to do, yellow into yellow, purple into purple, green into green. That's all that's going on here. This was a boss fight in the first trauma center.
Yeah, this operation's pretty rudimentary unless you're doing like a perfect ranked run. Then this operation becomes really difficult because you're basically trying to aim with like 1 pixel against 3 moving targets. And if you make 1 mistake, you have to start over.
If I recall in Second Opinion, the X rank run, you could actually make mistakes. I don't know if that's the case in this one.
Nope. Yeah. SCSK even had trouble with this operation because of how there's you can't make a single mistake with this op.
If you inject the wrong color into something, then you have to deal with more mess. more tumors.
Yeah. Funnily enough, there have been multiple Under the Knife, so the first game, multiple world records in that game where we have screwed up Tatati because we got distracted.
Yeah.
It just happens. Literally the hardest thing about that operation is staying focused long enough to memorize the colors.
Yeah.
And we still do that.
I call out the colors to myself so I know what I'm doing.
I often do. I thought I would feel a little bit silly if I did it today.
Well, you have us to help you, don't you?
I do. Also, I have a moment or two if Muffin has any donations.
Oh, we have quite a good number of donations, folks. Thank you so much. We have quite a great donation here, $30 from Anonymous, that just simply says, what a horrible night to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And that being said, we have quite an excellent donation indeed, $500 from Anonymous.
Nice.
Anonymous says, hello all, longtime watcher, first time donating. I'm not a surgeon, but I do put people to sleep for surgery for a living. While watching this magnificent run, I am sorely tempted to bring my DS into the operating room tomorrow and show some surgeons how it's done. TrjnRabbit, wonderful job. And pro tip, in the real world, if your patient's vitals drop to below 2, that quickly escalates into a sad day at Whoville. Keep up the good work, everyone. And I gotta say, I love me some AGDQ. P.S. OMG, Virtual Highlight, and Geyer, shut up and take my money.
So it's funny you mentioned that because I don't know if the other games do this, but the end of second opinion after you beat the last X operation, it says to not tell your patients how many times you failed a game about surgery if you are actually a doctor.
Also, shout outs to all anesthetists and anesthesiologists, which is a very hard word to say when you have had very little sleep. Do not bring DSs into operating theaters. They are not clean. But thank you, Anonymous. And do get surgeons to play this. I've had surgeons and other doctors play this in the past. It never goes well.
That sounds like it could be a YouTube video.
I think there have been a few, haven't there?
Probably. Also, this is that guy we said who's been shot in the heart, but he'll be fine.
Oh, right.
I mean, you can sing Bon Jovi during this operation if you like.
Casually at 7 vitals, no problem. With a bullet in his heart.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the heart stops beating during this is meant to be a thing which makes you panic. But if you're operating on a still beating heart, you're going to kill the patient. This is one of the very few things I actually know about medicine. Don't trust me on that, though. Pretty sure if you're having heart surgery, you're meant to be on bypass so that your heart's not moving, so the surgeon has a still target. One minute. Don't think I needed all of that. All right, so the guy that just got shot, I think he was a bad guy. There's some bad guys running around doing naughty things. It's what they do. The problem is his heart's not working properly, so he needs a pacemaker, and we're going to slap a trafficking device in the pacemaker as well. The fun thing, though, is Angie's going to tell us how to insert the pacemaker, and the game audio doesn't quite expect you to do things in the order that we do things, so she may get a little repetitive. It's also a really good opportunity to learn some Japanese dialogue, but you'll be learning from me, which is not a trustworthy source. Anyhow, we're going to do vocabulary lessons with Angie right now as we give this guy a pacemaker.
Yeah, we're an hour into the run and we're finally going to learn how you play this game.
I think I got a decent handle on it. Got a few S ranks, that means I'm good, right?
Of course.
Hooray! Okay, so pincer, that means forceps. Drain means drain. Pogo means sutures, probably. That means panic.
I find it interesting that the manner that you do the heart massage in is different in every game that it appears in.
It's true, yeah.
This is just a simple mini game where I have to tap in the middle of the overlapping circles. Jelly, antibiotic gel. I think they actually call it heal jelly.
Okay, Angie, we get it, thanks.
Yeah, you weren't kidding.
She loves to help.
This was probably the one operation she was actually helpful in.
I mean, I guess?
Just remembering how angry she looks all the time in this game.
I never liked Angie much.
Yeah, I kind of wish I knew what she looked like during operations, but I don't look at the top screen, so...
Probably for the best.
Yeah, I do pay just a little bit of attention to what's going on in the game. It is helpful.
You are being constantly scolded.
Okay, I can live with that.
I definitely prefer Elena from New Blood. She is way more calm than Angie.
Yeah. All right, plot's happening in the meantime, by the way. We're raiding a bad guy's base, I think. Maybe. Doesn't matter. Anyway, our friend Reina Miyazumi, the woman who was poking and prodding us and doing tests and is going to reveal herself to be a bad guy later, she's going to come down with a case of Pempty, which is nicknamed the Blender because it does bad things to people's lungs. And it's one of the roadblocks in like Under the Knife and Second Opinion and this game because it appears in all of them. And they tried to make it more difficult by throwing in a complication where it splits in two. And after it splits in two, it's going to throw out all of these little bodies that do different types of attacks. And I'm just going to hit everything with the laser that's going to make a very pleasant and not repetitive at all buzzing noise as I hold the laser down over the attacks or the cores. The happy little bonus here is that after I defeat one of the two sides of the Pempty, the other one's going to go into a Berserk mode and basically do double attacks. But I'm just going to alternate which ones I'm hitting so that the Berserk one only has one hit point left, and then it's not going to do too much. Hopefully, if it does any damage whatsoever, I can just clean it up during the defeat animation. We'll find out what happens.
So yeah, contrary to like how much is going on with Pempty, once you get a hold of it and like once you know all the sequencing and the different attacks it does, it's more or less like a side scroller. You can't really save any more time, just lose time depending on how well or how poor you do.
Exactly. Now, this is probably one of the biggest instances of what I call a cleanup loop. What happens in Trauma Center games a lot, just playing casually or as you're learning to the speedrun, is that the game throws things at you that you need to deal with. And you need to learn which ones to ignore and which ones to prioritize, because if you focus on the wrong one, it's going to give the thing that you need to prioritize opportunities to attack you and give you more things to clean up, so you just get stuck in the cleanup loop. Here I'm just zapping these bodies that are going to go out and cause cuts if I don't zap them in time. Then we have these attacks here, which create little miniature tumors that we need to zap with a laser if we don't clean them up. And then these ones make vitals tick down over time. That's pretty much all that Pempty can throw at us. You'll notice that the bodies change color, and that means they're vulnerable. Otherwise, I just kind of sit here, hand over the stylus over the core with the laser, hoping to get them on the first frame that they're vulnerable.
They still have the special laser in this operation where it doesn't run out, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I do have an infinite laser. One of only 2 times in the run where I do.
Which is unfortunate because there are many operations where having an infinite laser would really help.
Oh god, the final chapter would go so much easier if I had this thing.
I think
no.
I think the excuse was that the Pempty's armor makes it so the lung doesn't take damage.
Yeah.
There was a plot explanation, but who listens to those, right? I'm going to let that attack because I just want to get the hit in. Totally fine.
Yeah, Pempty is definitely one of those where if you fall behind, it gets out of hand really quickly.
Yeah.
And you only your only recourse is the healing touch at that point.
and then everything just moves slower.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, you really don't want a healing touch in this operation if you can avoid it, because slowing down the cycles where it becomes vulnerable just drags it out. That's one of the downsides of the healing touch, is it often slows down the guilt and like gives you limited periods of vulnerability to deal with them. But we're going to ignore that and use healing touch on later guilt anyway, because I'm going to be lazy. It is actually the fast, efficient way to do it. It also just makes it, you know, a bit more consistent and lazy, which I like. All right, 5 chapters down, 2 to go, and we've still got a bit of time left under the estimate, so hopefully we'll get there. We're now dealing with Neo Triti, and anyone who's played Trauma Center knows how much of a jerk Triti is. They are the Doritos of doom. Everyone loves them. Thankfully, not so much in this one. There's no Doritos, there's just the thorns holding them in place. So all I gotta do is pull the thorns out and make sure the patient doesn't bleed too much. But in the earlier games, Triti was, I don't think it was very fondly remembered, because there were these triangular-shaped membranes that just kind of kept spawning and spawning and respawning and going on a cycle that was a real pain to get under. In speedruns, we just use Healing Touch and deal with it all at once, but if you're playing casually, you're probably going to throw your DS out a window.
Yeah, it's the biggest headache when dealing with it casually.
Defenestration is a valid option.
Sometimes it's the best option.
And they made it easier in the Second Opinion remake. Like, the original game is just even harder.
Yeah, in the original game, you had to pull out each of the thorns with the forceps and use the scalpel to cut them out and then take them out with the forceps. But they more or less removed the scalpel step in later games.
Yeah. And then they just removed pretty much everything in this one.
Yeah.
Just a couple of thorns hanging out inside this guy's skin. Oh, they've also tried to make it complicated by not giving us any stabilizer to boost vitals, but we're just going to ignore that and not care.
Again, challenge accepted.
And there's post-guilt syndrome, which I'm also going to ignore.
Madman.
They'll be fine. Also, pay attention to the top left of the screen. There's this weird little visual glitch that happens every once in a while, where the membranes that I'm placing just kind of happen to appear in the top left of the screen as well. Never worked out why it happens, never particularly cared, but it does.
Another slight thing of note here for this op is that when you extract the treaty thorns, the spots will begin hemorrhaging faster than usual. But of course, Trojan's operating so fast, you probably won't notice.
There,
Oh, there it goes.
By 1.
Yeah.
1's about average, that's fine.
So yeah, if you want guacamole Doritos inside you, you just have to have those thorns. You can just grow them yourself.
That seems legit. I mean, this game is set in the far-flung future of 2021, 3 years after the events of Under the Knife. So all the medical advances here, I'm sure, will be right around the corner.
Well, they should have already happened if the first game was last year.
I mean, probably, but I wouldn't know. Do any of our donators know Muffin?
That is an excellent question, but we do have quite a special donation here from Thorough that donates $40.
Hey!
Thorough has to say, hey guys, always nice seeing a trauma center run at a GDQ. It's an amazing run to watch and to perform too. Seeing all of you together really shows how awesome GDQ is for getting small communities like ours to meet up and have fun. Best of luck on the final stretch, Trojan.
Thanks, Thela. Thela is an absolute legend. He runs the Wii games, and if you ever check him out, it is a sight to behold.
Yeah. Highly recommended.
All right, so I think some more nonsense is happening. The bad guys have kind of decided that they're going to be jerks, and they're running around the city spreading some tatati. So we're going to do color matching. And to try and make things complicated, they're going to throw out a 5th color. And we know how I deal with numbers, so 5 things at once just might be too much. I'm trying to add tension, but it's just not there. So tatati is not too hard to deal with, thankfully. And yes, I am aware of the concept of hubris. That's okay. Nobody saw that.
Okay.
Saw what?
Thank you. I also love the noise that Tatani makes when it spawns in. There's like a little flipper kicking noise. There's some really random sound effects like that in this game, and they're amazing. My personal favorite is the blub blub sound effect we'll hear at the end of the chapter. I swear that sentence made sense.
It'll make sense later.
I hope. All right, again, just color matching. And they've tried to complicate it by adding in the black one, but we miraculously have a black vial now, so totally okay. Then, you know, green to green, black into black, yellow into yellow.
Yeah. Also, slight detail here with the injecting. You can't begin injecting the medicine until the colors of each of the Tatari go away. Otherwise, if you do it too soon, you'll get a miss.
So mine, a bit of hubris there. I forgot the colors. I had to wait. They give these little gas clouds to tell you what they are when they're vulnerable. So just kind of had to sit there for a moment and suck up my mistake.
Yeah, that can happen when you get nervous during a run. It happens to me as well. Sometimes, like with Tatari, you'll just randomly forget what colors you saw like 2 seconds ago.
But it's okay. We're done. There's only going to be one more Tatari patient towards the end of the run.
The simplest operation, and it just trips us all up.
Yeah.
Yep, saving the world from eyes inside of women's hearts, spiders, also inside of people's hearts, fidget spinners bouncing around inside of people's lungs.
Oh yeah, we're going to see that soon.
That's actually an apt description of an upcoming op.
Yeah, that's easy. Matching colors. No, not happening, man.
That's why Chad is going to love CA.
Yeah. Now we're dealing with two of the operations that I don't love so much because they try and make it difficult by throwing in limited visibility. The screen's going to be black and we're going to have a little pen light to try and operate. And to make it more difficult, we've also been kidnapped and we're operating on a bad guy in the back of a stolen ambulance trying to fix his arm back together as his driver swerves wildly through the suburbs or mountains or whatever it is we're in. The funny thing is, if you perform surgery fast enough, you approach a tunnel where there's light, which means that through our magical surgery powers, we can build tunnels and save the local government billions of dollars. Truly, we are wizards. And you too can do this if you play Trauma Center.
This is also like a throwback to Second Opinion, where you also operate inside a tunnel. Ironically, the tunnel in that game has the lights out.
Their camera flashes are actually useful.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Thankfully, we're past that here. All right, so I'm going to try and place the light in a very specific spot so I can just ignore it for the rest of it. And then if I do this well enough, we don't have to worry about the rest of what's going on. But who knows, maybe we do.
Yeah, even if everything on the screen isn't shown right now, you can still operate even where it's dark.
Yeah, and thankfully this little swerve that's about to happen is going to show us the rest of the objects. So I now know exactly where everything is. Even though I did not put the camera in the correct position. Actually, I'm just going to do that because I made mistakes and I'm just going to have to suck it up. Okay, so that's the car moving. It hasn't happened to me in about a year, but it did. But that's okay. His car's going to stop moving because we've magically found a tunnel. So hooray for Derek's prodigious build. Wow, I don't even know what I was trying to say there. Hooray for tunnels.
Yep.
Time travel.
Yep. All right, so that didn't seem too bad, and that's not the worst operation in the game. The next one is the worst operation in the game, because we are now going to be locked in the dungeon of the bad guy's lair, And we're going to have to break out by performing surgery on 4 doors using the antibiotic gel as a lubricant.
Every game has a weird gimmick operation like this.
Yep.
Yep, you thought defusing a bomb was weird.
Yeah, Atlas is pretty impressive with how they come up with these ops.
I forget, is the medical board notified if the bomb goes off?
Yeah.
Yes, and then
Even though you're kind of with the medical board in that off.
yeah, you are at a medical conference. All right, so the worst thing about this operation is there's going to be some pins that are just going to cycle around on the outside of the doors. And, well, they're going to be in place, but they're going to light up on a cycle. And if we touch any of the pins when they're lit, the alarm's going to go off. The bad guys are going to stop us from performing surgery on a door, and we're never going to be seen again.
And the medical board will be notified.
I'm about to say, yeah. They still get notified even though you've been taken away, kidnapped.
Yeah. Also, I'd just like to point out the door's name, height, and weight. I feel like they could have thrown in a bit of an estimate. Also, its vitals are unknown. And the patient's life is in my hands.
The door's life is in your hands.
All right, again, being lazy with the pen light here, I'm just going to leave it in place and kind of squiggle wildly, hoping it works.
Very precise scientific method you use there.
Yeah, and then we've got these pins that are of variable length, and I'm just going to kind of go in a non-specific order, removing them, being very careful not to touch any of them while they're lit, because that will be an instant game over, and we're going to lose minutes that I don't know if I have. And then we get to do it 3 more times. Everyone strapped in? It's a very exciting operation. Also, I may need to move the light.
There's always one dot.
Yeah. Now, misses are totally fine, but they do make our dapperly dressed Iris in the background there clench a little bit, because in Trauma Center New Blood, where there is a similar operation, misses basically kill the patient.
Yeah, if you get like 2 or 3, if you get 2 or 3 misses, the patient more or less dies. But in this game, it doesn't matter.
This isn't brain surgery this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Trauma Center New Blood version of this operation, you're operating on a real human instead of a door. Excuse me, door. It's over here. Cool, so fun fact with the 2 stars trick, you can not do it apparently. You can do it multiple times in a row to juggle objects into the tray. As I did just then. I'm just going to wait a moment.
I was about to say, why are you doing this during a run? It's so risky.
It's not risky, it's just stupid. But you can do it, so I did. Anyway, lubricating the door with the antibiotic gel, like I said, it is magical. You can do everything with it. And this is the final door, so we're almost free of this operation, which is taking a little while, but it always takes a little while because we're operating on a door, and Derek is a surgeon. Game, I am trying to do a thing. Let me do the thing. Nope. Nope. Nope.
Oh.
I made that a lot harder than I
Yes, you did. Congrats, you opened those doors.
Hey, the vitals didn't go below 0.
It's true.
They didn't. See, just wonderful, wonderful things. Now that we're past that, we're actually going to deal with like the rest of the game, which is this mad rush of ridiculous anime nonsense that is beautiful. But before we do that, I don't know, Muffin, do we have any donations?
We do indeed, and it looks like we have $50 in as a donation that says, Trojan, you may be a bad surgeon now, but remember, malpractice makes mal perfect.
That was good.
You're not wrong.
We also have $10 from LLK that says, top 3 speedrunner sayings I wouldn't want to hear from my surgeon. Number 3, this is thought to be a TAS-only strat, but I'm feeling brave right now. Number 2, and now I can just damage boost on this part. And number 1, uh-oh, I think I soft locked.
All right. We're now dealing with the bad guys. We've busted out of their lair, so we're going to defeat some of the bad guys because there's multiple bad guys. And this one just happens to be an evil German dude who's trapped his children in giant test tubes and infected them with guilt, and also himself. He's the bald guy. I think you can get that he's evil. Maybe. It's a subtle thing.
It's usually the bald people or people with white hair in anime, it seems like.
Yeah.
How good are the sound effects?
I mean, he also has the laugh.
He does.
He does.
All right, so we're dealing with 3 strains of guilt, one after the other after the other. We got Tatati, which Hubris will get me. We have Kiriaki, which will have a glitch to stop the eggs from spawning, and then we'll have Pempty, which is hopefully an auto-scroller. We've seen these all before, but we'll do a brief recap of them as we're doing, maybe. We've also got 10 minutes, which seems like a lot of time. Because, yeah, you can actually time out in these operations. That is a thing that is a problem.
At least they don't have the miss limits anymore.
Yep, in the first trauma center, if you got 20 misses in an operation, you killed the patient. You also didn't have the ability to retry an operation if you screwed up. So if you made a mistake while going for score, the best way to reset was to grab your scalpel and go to town. I've killed many little girls in my quest to get all S ranks.
That doesn't sound like something to be proud of.
Things you don't want to hear your surgeon say.
Look, there weren't any cadavers. Hope the one on the right was green. How good is this music, by the way? Like, I know we've drawn attention to it before. Whoops. But the guilt music in this game is so good.
Oh, yeah.
This always puts up a good soundtrack. Okay, so this is Kiriaki again. Neo Kiriaki, where we're going to use a glitch to stop the eggs from spawning, which would have caused more infants to pop up and ruin our day. And instead of that, we're just going to let the patient's vitals get super low by slapping them full of jelly and letting the cuts kind of sit there until we kill the queen. And again, please let me back into Australia when I'm done here. I don't have a home in America. What is with these lucky ultrasounds?
Yeah, they've been pretty good. Usually with the ultrasound, you have to like keep poking around the patient until you find all of them, but yeah, this is some pretty good luck right now.
I wish I had luck this good with Deftera.
That is impossible. Deftera is the worst thing ever.
Agreed.
Deftera is a very luck-based operation in Second Opinion and New Blood, where that's the wrong tool, where there's a bunch of just, I don't know, tumors, I guess, bouncing around, where you need the mismatched pairs to fuse together into a little yin-yang thing.
Yeah.
And they just cause a whole lot of nonsense and a lot of death and a lot of resets. The worst.
And TP stars.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Thankfully, no Deftera in this game.
They got rid of all the, well, mostly got rid of the annoying operations with Tridi and Deftera.
Paraskevi, yeah.
As I forgot about that one.
I like Paraskevi. It's another excuse to sing Bon Jovi because it's the heart. All right, so again with Pempty, we just got to deal with these little attacks before they can cause any damage, and then we'll be holding down the stylus over the cause so that we can kill it before things get out of control. Remembering to alternate between the top and the bottom half, so that when the top half goes berserk, it only has 1 hit point left. And you know, if that goes wrong, then we'll see what happens. Probably bad things.
Man, I wish I had 2 styluses for my first playthrough of this, for this operation specifically.
It's a funny little thing. People knew about using 2 styluses on the Trauma Center games from like the first month that the first one came out. It's how I played them when they first came out.
It can seem intimidating at first because you're like, wait, how do I, like, where do I use my left hand? Where do I use my right hand? Where do I, like, how do I tool switch and everything? But, like, you just start off with your dominant hand and then just practice with your offhand for tool switching occasionally, and then eventually you'll get the hang of doing both with both hands.
Yeah, it's not quite like writing with your non-dominant hand.
No, it's a lot simpler, and like it's not something you should be intimidated by because most people play most games with 2 hands. Like that I am playing with 2 hands right now should not be an impressive thing. Cool, so it has multiple hit points. That hasn't happened in a while. Definitely happened before, but still good. Still dead. Patient's not dead, I hope.
I hope 55
I
is more
about
than
say,
0.
I hope you can finish this at 55.
All right, so that's 6 chapters down. Now we've only got the 7th chapter where they decide that this game wasn't anime enough, and we're going to have 3 more strains of guilt, 2 multi-patient operations, and hopefully no heart attacks.
Yeah, next up we have Bythos, which is an interesting thing to talk about because he's big and he lumbers around like he has no idea what he's doing at all. Fun dude to battle against. But the thing is, these neo-guilt are used for various purposes that have benefits as well as detriments. And we're going to be operating on Annie, who is the tennis player, and that's why she has Bythos inside her, because it's basically used like a performance-enhancing drug.
Video games have taught us that infecting yourself with diseases on purpose cannot have any possible side effects.
No. None whatsoever. It definitely doesn't cause any sort of irrational behavior or madness from the bad guys. They were already idiots.
What we're dealing with here is we need to use the laser, and then it'll break apart, and you want to get the core to the tray. But when it breaks apart, there's going to be shell pieces and spores everywhere, and you can't touch any of that as you take the core to the tray, except he's going to use the multi-touch function to just warp the core to the tray instead.
Yeah, so instead of being one of the hardest operations in the game, we just kind of don't do that. We just completely trivialize it because they didn't expect people to use 2 styluses. And I'm okay with that, because this operation is a doozy if you don't have 2 styluses. Also, if you run out of laser, because we don't have our magic laser for the Pempty. All right, so there you go. Maybe selecting the right tool. And that's all it takes to deal with Bythos. Now we're just going to do it a couple more times, and I'm going to use the healing touch.
We also leave the cuts on screen because I believe when you treat the cuts, it allows Bythos to dive and then reappear somewhere and create even more cuts.
Yeah, well, more importantly, it can only leave 8 cuts on the screen because there's some memory limitations going on.
Yeah.
So that way, if it tries to do any attacks, they're not going to do anything, so we only have to clean up these 8 cuts. And that was a mistake. It's fine. We only have to clean up these 8 cuts at the end, which we can do during the defeat animation. But now I just need to be a little bit careful because it's still got 2 hit points left with the healing touch, because I may have accidentally dragged my left hand onto the touch screen, causing 3 inputs, which is definitely not a thing you want to do ever. But now it's dead.
You can hear it cutting even though it's not making more cuts.
Yeah.
It still does the animation, it just doesn't leave any wounds. It's also very, very dead.
So speaking of 3 touch points, when are triple stylus strats?
Oh, man.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
2 players, 3 styluses.
Again, I'm operating on a screen the size of a Post-it note. If you can find a way to fit 2 people around this screen without them being conjoined twins, please.
If only they made it on the Wii U.
Well, I mean, there's always 2-player mode on New Blood.
There is. And we've got a moment, Muffin, if you've got any donations to throw our way.
Sure, certainly. We have lots of donations coming in. Thank you, folks, so much for your support. We have $10 from EM64 that says, Under the Knife 2 remains my favorite game of all time after a decade. But teenage me would never have known that I'd be currently studying for my medical board exams. This speedrun has been the best study break I could ask for. And I'm getting a good laugh out of the inaccuracies now that I've been through the med school ringer. Happy to donate to a great cause given that I've dealt with cancer in both my personal and professional life. Good luck with the rest of the run.
Good luck on your medical exams and crush it. All right, we're doing another raid on another bad guy's base because that's basically what we've devolved down to, and for some reason they send surgeons on these things. And a bunch of guys have come down with brain aneurysms, which is a totally normal reaction to whatever the hell's going on here. I'm gonna let quite a lot of these aneurysms burst because I am the world's laziest doctor. Also because I'm just not really a doctor. And the most important thing with this operation is really just making sure that everything is in the right place on the screen so that we can deal with them quickly. And trying to ignore Angie as he incessantly tells us how to deal with something that we're quite okay with. She likes to help. That's fine. The added bonus is that the third patient is going to have tumors as well as aneurysms, so we actually have to ignore quite a lot of the aneurysms to make sure we deal with the tumors, because those are worse. Turns out brain tumors are not a thing that you want to have. Thankfully, everything here always spawns in the same places, so I'm basically just zipping the screen around to wherever I please to make sure that I can deal with it in whatever order makes sense. There is routing for this game, I promise. I'm not just making it up on the fly. I hope.
Yeah. And each of these brain aneurysms operations get progressively harder. This one will now have more large aneurysms, and then the third patient will have large aneurysms with pus and tumors. Because just dealing with the aneurysms wasn't enough.
No, Atlas doesn't know the concept of enough, nor should they.
What kind of person has this many aneurysms, though?
Same kind of person who has a dozen tumors in their stomach.
Well, I would
should have
assume...
expected that answer.
I assume not a living one in most instances. Right, and again, with the large aneurysms, we really want to prioritize them because the longer we leave them, the larger they get and the more sedative they take to clean up, which we're going to see on the next screen over. This large aneurysm is going to take a whole lot of sedative because there was just no opportunity to get to it sooner, because the game likes to do that to us. And unlike the small tumor aneurysm above it, which burst, that one's just not going to burst, so we have to deal with it. Whereas on this screen with the patient who has a bunch of tumors, we're going to let a lot of aneurysms burst. It's faster. They can live. I hope.
See, with this third patient, we try to go for the pus first rather than the aneurysms because, ironically, the aneurysms popping is kind of inconsequential compared to the pus getting out of control.
Exactly. It leaves a whole bunch of inflammation around the organ, and sometimes it can sit on the edge of the organ, which is pretty much the same color. It can make it really hard to find.
Yeah.
It's only super trolly.
There you go.
First try. 15th, maybe.
So even though Trojan injected the sedative and cut the aneurysm, he doesn't have to extract them yet right away because the aneurysm won't begin growing again once you've used the scalpel on it.
Yeah, so you can just kind of leave it in place and deal with it at your leisure.
Yeah.
And here's one of those happy little inflammations that's hanging out on the edge of the organ, but I caught it before too late. So we need to deal with all of these before we get to the final wave of this patient.
Yeah, you can wait to extract the aneurysms with the forceps until you're ready to take out the tumors as well.
Yeah.
Little optimization there with the tool switching. Same with the drain.
Yeah. All of these burst aneurysms are actually timed out so that it works in our favor.
Yeah, you always want to use one tool as much as you can before you move on to a different one.
Exactly. Unfortunately, the tray can get a little trolly there sometimes when you're trying to operate on things below the tray, and it will obfuscate the operating field.
Yeah. Like, while you can start actions in front of the UI and like drag the stylus behind it to get through it, that does not work there. All right, we're coming up to what is probably my favorite strat of the speedrun. And unfortunately, you guys don't get to hear it. We're dealing with Sieg, which is another type of guilt. And it puts a cloud of gas in front of the screen every time we attack it. And we're meant to blow into the DS microphone to get rid of it. But I don't want to do that. And normally I blast some wrestling entrance themes into the microphone instead. Shinsuke Nakamura's theme is a particular banger. Love it quite a lot. But because that might cause some issues with WWE, instead, I'm going to try and open up YouTube while we're here and play some white noise into the microphone. And if you could cut my microphone for the next 2 minutes until I give you a thumbs up, that'd be really nice.
So yeah, a little trick that we use, the reason why we use the noise is we play the noise directly into the DS mic. It tricks the DS into thinking we're constantly blowing on it for like 2 minutes. And I'll explain a little bit more once the operation begins.
So chat, here's your fidget spinners of doom.
Yep.
You don't want these inside you.
So yeah, first we've got to clean up the pus and the inflammation, then now Sieg will make its appearance. So throughout the operation, Sieg will also be creating internal hemorrhages if you aren't operating fast enough. And then once you expose it, it'll create mist all over the screen, and that's where you have to blow into the mic. But again, as Trojan said, he's using the white noise to just blow into the mic for him, so he doesn't have to blow and operate at the same time, because that's definitely what you want your surgeon to do. He also activated the healing touch to slow down how fast Sieg will be moving around, so the fidget spinners aren't moving as fast as they normally would.
Yeah, these things go super fast if you let them get away.
Yeah. And then after 2 hits, they begin multiplying, but you can still find the real one because it has a different color from the other 2. And now that the healing touch is worn off, they'll try to move fast, but of course, Trojan will just splash gel everywhere to stun them.
Sieg's benefit, by the way, is when it's placed in somebody, it acts as a performance-enhancing drug for your mind. It helps you learn faster.
Yeah, the person we were operating on was our friend Dr. Tulba from the first chapter, who may have become crazy and disillusioned after we didn't operate it on him properly at the start of the 4th chapter. So he volunteered to get Sieg injected into him so that he could get the healing touch himself, and he may have got a little murdery.
Just a little bit.
He can give people who don't already have one a healing touch.
I'm just now imagining surgeons with WWE intros.
How good would that be? Just like rocking in to like a surgical theater, like the patient's just going under, and then all of a sudden you just hear like glass shattering. The crowd would go wild.
See, the problem is then it's like, oh, so you do play Trauma Center. So can I get another surgeon, please? Because I've seen how people play that game.
Well, at least more people would watch live surgeries then, I assume.
To be fair, I don't think it would be completely out of place on the show Scrubs.
No. Although they would probably play Erasure instead of wrestling music, but that's just as awesome.
Yeah.
All right, another operation that's a little bit fun. We're dealing with 3 burns patients in a row, and because they have pretty severe burns, we're going to have we're going to have less skin to work with to make skin grafts as we go along. And there's just going to be a whole lot of blood and burning and death and things that you really want to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
So you may... Oh, go ahead.
Just a minor amount of death. Go ahead.
So you might notice there's a blackened area and a pinkish area. The blackened burns are the 3rd-degree burns, whereas the pinkish areas are just 1st-degree burns. And the blackened areas deal extra damage the longer they're left alone. So we kind of want to try and get around to them as quickly as possible, but we also want to deal with the 1st-degree burns because they cause lots of hemorrhaging.
Yeah, basically we want to make sure that there's as little blood on the screen as possible because the blood's going to obstruct things. We do not want things obstructed because the hitboxes for the burns are bad enough as it is. And I will try and deal with these in pairs as best as I can because it just kind of makes for more efficient tool usage. Even if it means that I'm clenching quite a bit because the blood cycles are not generous.
Yeah. The 2nd and 3rd patient are kind of awkward because each of these burns requires 8 patches to deal with, and they give you 7.
And the next one we get 6, but that's okay. We're just going to use the healing touch, cover the screen with a whole bunch of nonsense, and it normally works out. I am so sorry about the state of my butterflies. The important thing is that the game thinks that they're stars. Anyhow, what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to cut out everything now so that the vitals aren't going to tick down from all this blackened flesh, because that's the thing that causes some issues.
Yeah. Contrary to all the green dots on the screen, this isn't a coloring book. The healing touch also slows down the rate at which the blood pools will reappear from the burns.
Yeah, so the timing on all of that just works out to be really generous. If you healing touch immediately or take several attempts to draw a butterfly, it still mostly lines up.
Yeah.
Also, the cycle for these blood pools at the end should be enough that I can just slap some gel down and they are saved. Yes, yes. Good. That was the last mundane operation of the game.
That was mundane?
That was mundane.
Compared to what's coming up, the burns are somewhat mundane.
Yep, we get to deal with Bythos again, and then Alethea, and I think there was a song about Alethea in Persona 5. I don't know. But first we've got Bythos, and fun little plot thing. See this woman with the short brown hair? That's Heather Ross. She was Emilio's nurse, and I did mention earlier that nurses' dads are bad guys. That's just what happens. Her dad's a bad guy. That's him. He's done the Mr. Freeze thing. He's shoved his sick wife in a test tube thing, that you can see in the back screen, and he's infected her with Bythos to stop her from dying, which probably made sense to someone at some point, but not to me at any point. But just like before, 2 styluses completely trivializes Bythos unless you make mistakes. So hopefully I don't do that. Because again, I am really waiting for Hubris to bite me in the ass, but it hasn't got there yet. It's okay, we've still got the final boss. And this one.
What is up with people's dads just always turning out to be evil in this series?
Daddy issues. The anime version of it. Did I say animes? That's not linguistically anything. Nor was that sentence. All right. I do have to manage the laser here very carefully. Like you saw in the first time I did this, I ran out because I wasn't tapping the screen rapidly. You can hold it down, but that doesn't work very well. You're meant to just tap away to kind of get the more efficient usage of the tool. That mostly worked out. And then we do Healing Touch, and that's going to cause Bythos to move slower, which means we can just hold the laser down on it for the next couple of hits. And hopefully, this is pretty trivial from here on out. And the vitals may hit a rather nice number in a moment. Or not. It's up to the game.
So even though it seems like it's going slow, this is actually one of the faster ways to approach Bythos.
Yeah, the amount of time you save by being able to hit the laser with it not moving too much is a lot more than the reformation animations that we've got there. So it saves almost 30 or 40 seconds last time I timed that out. And I may have made a mistake with the laser again. That was cool.
Can I just say I love Bythos' theme?
You can, because it is awesome. And it's the correct thing to love. This is Panic Station, guys. This is not what's meant to happen.
Nice.
Okay. And if we're really lucky, we're going to see a wound magically disappear. We won't.
Sometimes while you're in the middle of suturing and Bythos dies, it'll queue up the suture, and then when Bythos goes away, it'll just activate it.
Yeah, so it looked like you'd magically suture a thing together, but didn't get lucky there. Would have been nice to show off, but it is not consistent. Okay, we are coming to the final boss of the run, and if you thought anything in this game was anime, you have seen absolutely nothing, because we're now dealing with our friend Rei Miyazumi, the woman that was flirting with Derek and trying to steal his superpowers. She has a Lethia inside of her, which is basically a boss rush version.
I see what you did there.
But before we get to Alethea, this is probably going to be our last chance for donations, if Muffin's got anything for us.
Oh, absolutely. We have $10 from Earthman that says, I absolutely love this game and series. The commentary is wonderful and your skills are amazing. Keep up the good work, Trojan, and make the world guilt-free.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
We also have $50 from Titan Drake that says, Under the Knife 2 and Trauma Team are the only games in the Trauma Center series that I haven't gotten to play yet. So it's great to see this game and see it's ridiculous as I expected. Thanks for the run.
You're welcome. Now, fun little fact, Rei Miyazumi is 35 years old, and she's been using Alethea to give herself some very youthful looks. And then as soon as things went old, she revealed her true self, which was, I don't know, she looked a bit older than 35. I'm not a great judge of age, but I've not seen a 35-year-old woman that looked like that.
Neither have I.
All right, so final exam, final boss. We're going to deal with multiple miniature versions of the guilt that we've seen over the course of the run. If everything goes right, we're only going to see 3 of them. We're going to see Kyriaki, we're going to see Bythos, and we're going to see Sieg. Not in that order, because apparently I can't remember things correctly.
Kyriaki, Sieg, then Bythos.
Thank you. First up, we're going to have Kyriaki, and we're going to just zap them with the laser. Every time we kill one of the miniature guilt, the eye is going to open, and we're going to inject it with some black serum. Once we've got enough black serum into the eye and all of the miniature guild have been defeated, the eye is going to open itself and expose some veins that are going to be either white or red. Touch a red vein, patient's going to lose a lot of vitals, and that was a mistake that I didn't want to make. Patient's going to lose a lot of vitals, and we're going to have to do... Okay, so we're going to see Nouse now as well, and I might need to focus a little bit. But if you touch a red vein, you're going to reset and you're going to go back to the first cycle and lose a lot of vitals in the meantime.
Ooh.
It's okay, it's only going to take like 1 injection from here. This is Nouse. We normally don't see this during the run because normally we're good at video games, but that's okay because we just defeat all of these very quickly, inject 1, and then we've got this blinking thing. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to follow behind with a scalpel and cut these in a reasonably specific order and weaken each vein periodically so that the next one takes a little bit less and we're going to be safe.
Fortunately, Nouse is not that difficult, so it's not too big of a time loss.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Sieg, and this time I don't get to play music. All I need to do is slap some gel down and hit him with a scalpel like so. Unless I possibly select the wrong tool, because that's a thing that I can do. And I'm trying to deal with these in a reasonably specific grouping, just to make life a little bit easier for me, because this final pair can be a real jerk if you deal with them one at a time. But that's fine. We're now moving on to the next bit where the eye's going to open again, I hope. I said I hope the eye's going to open.
There it
And we're going to start cutting.
And this is every bit as stressful as it looks.
This op has a lot of tool switching, and it's very easy to switch to the wrong tool.
On my first playthrough of this, I had to switch to easy difficulty on this one just to complete it the first time.
Yeah.
Yep. And now we have Bythos, which is the absolute worst thing, because it's going to leave hemorrhages underneath the surface of the heart, below these cores that I'm just zapping. So I'm trying to stack them in such a way that they're all on top of each other, and they can only make hemorrhages basically together, limiting the chance for the game to really screw us. But I may have just been a little inaccurate with the laser there, and now hemorrhages have started to form.
You also
Like
still
so.
have an inflammation.
I don't care about inflammation at all. All I've got to do is make sure that vitals are nice and safe.
All right.
And when these very random hemorrhages spawn underneath the cores, I just need to clean them up as quick as possible, like so. And I'm actually going to leave this one for a moment. So this is going to stop any from spawning underneath it, so that I can just quickly remove the last two cores and start injecting the serum into the eye for the third and final of this phase.
Pretty good luck with the hemorrhages, by the way. There was only one that came up.
Yeah, I'd say that was above average there.
Almost.
I'm playing way too cautious. All right, now we've got the final phase. So we can slow down time, right? Because now the eye's going to rapidly blink, and if we try and touch it whatsoever, it's just going to be a whole bunch of red veins. And if we pause it just right, this is a frame-perfect trick. Yeah, never mind. Anyway, there's actually two red veins, so we're just going to have to slow down time to make one of them disappear. Except I can't draw butterflies because I'm exhausted. Got there.
Stars are hard.
Has our butterflies. And now all I need to do is slowly follow behind the red vein. If I touch that red vein at all, it's game over and we've got to do everything all over again.
Yeah. Don't cut the red wire.
Yeah, Reina's in a room with a bunch of vats full of guilt, and if she dies, then those vats bust open and basically infect the world with guilt.
Or as I like to say, the world will be riddled with guilt.
So there's a lot at stake here.
Well, that's okay, we've only got 2 veins to go. Surely nothing can go wrong from here. Please. And that means I'm a doctor. No, like literally what he said is, I'm a doctor. Thank you.
It isn't time yet since, as in any Trauma Center game, you have to manually view the epilogue in order to get to the credits.
Yeah, so just a little bit of menuing, and then after the screen goes black, the credits will roll, and I will call time. But we've got about 20 seconds.
Still a very good run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully no one noticed the mistakes. There was only a lot of panicking during that end. All right, so when the screen goes black, that is time. I think I'm allowed to sleep now, right?
You've earned it.
That is a relief.
That was 2:07:30, by the way.
Oh, that would still be second place on the leaderboard.
About to say better than me.
Yeah, world record is 2 hours and 22 seconds. So to come that close with this little sleep is a minor miracle. Huh. All right.
All right, Trojan Rabbit, thank you so much for that excellent performance of Trauma Center Under the Knife 2, folks. We have an exciting rest of the marathon, tons of action-packed speed runs coming up, and definitely things to look forward to. Especially up next, we have the Packle, who is going to be running none other than Medal of Honor Airborne, followed immediately by Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X. So we're gonna get some double action coming from the Packle coming up here momentarily. We have a $10 donation from Matt that says, "Who knew Trauma Center Speedrun could be so entertaining? Thank you for showcasing this great game." Thank you, Matt, for the $10. All right, and speaking for things to donate for, if you want to see Half Coordinated get some sick hand cam action on, that's right, we are so close to being only $2,000 away. So make sure you keep bringing in those donations in to get some excellent hand cam action from none other than Half Coordinated. That being said, folks, this is gonna do it for me, CovertMuffin signing out. We're gonna go to a quick Twitch ad, and we'll be back with some more GDQ action in 60 seconds. See you later.
Who even runs UTK1? I don't even know. SCSK and TrjnRabbit. You get SCSK over here somehow. It's okay, I'm fine. I think I might have PX. Yeah. I was pretty pissed because William Newblood, he was just drawing random stuff and he was getting really touches. Well, you're losing runs to it. Only a couple times. What is even happening in the runs?
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic time here at AGDQ 2019. I'm Samarasi, and I will be taking over for the next few hours. We've got a $10 donation from Matsi. Who knew a Trauma Center speedrun could be so entertaining? Thank you for showcasing this great game.
My buddy's running Morrowind at like 4 a.m. too, so I'm up all night. Oh,
Optical Zero donates $250. After watching this amazing run, I think I can be a doctor now, right? I'm pretty sure you're a doctor now. Vem donates $25. Greetings from your friendly local emergency department, and what a perfect time for my first donation of the week. Thankfully, my night hasn't been nearly as exciting as what's on display, giving me plenty of time to watch some excellent runs. Thanks for keeping me entertained. Well, and thank you so much, Vem, for your work with the emergency services. We appreciate it. Cleese donates $25. Hey guys, always great to see Trauma Center games being run. It's such a good speed game and more people should consider picking it up. Woharan donates $30. May everyone enjoy their time here, speedrunners as well as staff and spectators. Sukarin donates $10. Wow, what a blast from the past with this Trauma Center run. Good luck to all the runners this week. Got a donation of $256 from Courrier de Sel. No comment, but thank you very, very much for your donation. I've also got a $100 donation from Anonymous that just has a heart. Thank you very much for your donation, and heart back to you too.